Hello everybody! Welcome to another wonderful Sunday Funday! And yes, Megan is here to contribute!
I'm back!
Yes, she had a brief hiatus over the last two movies, though technically they were last week and that was it. And she's actually going to be here for two reviews that we're going to do. First off, of course, Dunkirk. And right after this, there will be a Valerian review that we're going to talk about. We're going to give our views on Dunkirk here first, simply because we think it's the easier film out of them both to really talk about.
And it's fresh on our minds.
Yeah, we just finished watching it like 2 hours ago. Yeah,
just a couple hours ago.
So we've had time to start letting it sink in a little bit and think about it. And what did you think about it? About the newest Christopher Nolan and Suckfest?
Meh.
Megan gives it a hard knee.
Yeah, I was thinking, it's like, okay, this is either going to be really boring, because I'm not big on war movies. I don't know if that's because I'm a chick, or it's like, my interest in history goes back, like, to ancient Roman times and beyond.
And that's about it. She doesn't worry about any other actual important history. Megan does not worry about current history.
I would say, I don't usually bother with more recent history, like World War II.
Even though it's actually kind of important, it kind of shaped our current geopolitical landscape.
I know. And if we're not careful,
we're just going to repeat it again.
Yeah, especially with Hitler and the Nazis.
Instead, now we have Putin and the Russians.
Uh-huh. But, yeah. Like, I was saying this is either going to be boring, or I was going to be like, because, you know, it's a war movie, people gotta
die.
Yeah, it's gotta be casualties, of course. So I just be bawling my eyes out, but not as bad as Green Mile. Oh my god. My tear ducts will be so thankful if I never see that movie again.
But she's gonna buy it on Blu-ray, watch it in a few weeks.
I have it on Blu-ray. I got it. Yeah, that's how I was able to see it. I got it with Forrest Gump. It was like $5 at FYE. I was like, why not? It's like I never see the movie.
Now you have.
Uh-huh. It's sad. It's like, oh. But anyway, back to Dunkirk.
So.
But yeah, what I was going to say is that somehow it managed to be a little bit of both. I don't know how to accomplish this.
Well, I'm glad you think that it had some kind of emotional core.
I mean, it has like some emotional payout at the end, but it's like it really took a long time, and oh my god, it was so boring, and it was like just hard to follow, and it's hard to care about what was going on, hard to keep track of what was going on thanks to editing.
Well, not just the editing, but how the story is put together is a big problem.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, the narrative.
Yeah. I'm not trying to excuse it, I'm just trying to explain to those who may be wondering. Warren, we're going to kind of spoil this, but no offense, if we are spoiling a, not a real battle, but evacuation that happened over 70 years ago and you didn't know about this, you're a moron.
It's like one of my dad's friends. Don't spoil it for me. We're talking about the Alamo.
Yeah, talking about this Alamo movie that they play up at down San Antonio's IMAX like every day. They have like one showing every day.
Because it's right on the Riverwalk, like right next to the Alamo.
Yeah, the Alamo is literally, if they knock down a wall, it's like 20 feet in one direction.
Yeah.
So it's actually kind of a neat little historical thing to go do. And also the movie's actually pretty well done and everything.
Oh, my dad's friends. Like, don't spoil it for me.
It's history! This is ancient fucking history, nearly. How are you not knowing this shit?
I love my dad, but some of his friends are not the brightest balls in the chandelier.
But, yeah, this movie has a problem of, it really wants to be Memento, where Memento was more of a thriller, a psychological film, and it wasn't meant to be anything historical, which was fine. That's the reason why it worked the way it was. Its discombobulated nature worked well. Memento pretty much is backwards in all essence.
Mm-hmm. This is not backwards or forwards. It was just kind of...
There's three main stories going on, and they kind of mention them in this like little opening thing that shows the mall?
Yeah.
Yeah, they call it that. It's a pier. It says 1 week.
Yeah.
The sea, 1 day. The air, 1 hour.
Yeah.
That's actually important because it shows you the length of time that they're actually important to this little chunk of actual Dunkirkiness. And that makes a lot of problems because it cuts back and forth between the 3 different timelines. Never mind the fact the mole is the one that's the most long in terms of like how much stuff is having to happen in it. So you'll go from the air and go back to the mole, and the mole's at night. The air's in the middle of the fucking day, and it is so discombobulated.
Yeah, like it's so out of order. It's like all these timelines eventually converge at the end, sort of.
Messily, we'll put it that way. It's not a pretty convergence.
But still, it makes more sense at the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, like all these timelines, like it's just kind of out of order. It's kind of like that one card game is like follow the card.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
this is a shell game, no sense.
Yeah, pretty much like follow this. Like, fuck you.
Well, see, I would liken it more to. It's like 3 different movies were made and smushed together, and because of that, it's hard to invest in anything. It's hard to invest into the action because it constantly feels like it's being interrupted.
I would say it's like another thing that does not help the timing and the narrative is it constantly jumps around. Like it'll go from
the stuff going on with the mole, as they keep referring to it. That's really just this one guy and this one other dude. Turns out to be French, and that's a big plot point for reasons.
Yeah, it's just because he's trying to, get out of Dunkirk with everybody else, and since he refuses to talk, to say anything, and they just kind of...
Even though he actually does save them a couple times and helps them out.
Yeah, they start to suspect that he's a German spy.
Yeah, I know it's one of those paranoid things, and I know that was actually a real problem in the British Army and all that. Warning y'all, I actually am a huge World War II buff, so that's the reason why I was trying to go into this with somewhat high hopes.
Yeah, I know you're a big history fan, like especially when it comes to various wars.
Well, I was just going to say, that wasn't really a thing with common soldiers back then. At least not in the timeline of Dunkirk. A little here and there, but it's not enough that they would be that paranoid. Paranoia was not a huge thing until the beginning of the bombings of the Blitz of London, in all essence. That everybody thought this person was a German spy because that's the reason why my house got blown up. They purposely targeted. They were trying to kill me. Blah blah. That's when paranoia began to really set in with the British populace, especially the soldiers, the regular Joes. So it's a little out of place chronologically. Also, it doesn't fit well with this movie. It's a pointless suspense in all essence. It doesn't add real suspense. It's just there to try and add suspense, and it feels cheap.
Yeah, but you have, the guys, they're stuck in Dunkirk trying to get out, waiting for these boats to come, and waiting for air support to kind of take out the bad guys so they can leave.
Call them what they are, they're Nazis.
Well, they're enemies is what I meant to say, not the bad guys.
Well, they are Nazis still, we just call them that. Like anyone's gonna get mad. How dare you talk crap about the Nazis?
I'm not saying that. I'm just like
I'm saying you can.
I'm saying like with the context of a war.
Well, I'm speaking of this particular film. That works better. Otherwise, it sounds a little too vague.
But anyway. Yeah, it's like you have, them trying to get out of Dunkirk, and you have this one boat trying to make it to Dunkirk to kind of help them out. And in the meantime, they pick up Cillian Murphy, who's shell-shocked. And, spoiler, ends up killing this one guy, George. Only damn person in this whole damn movie, like, you really know his name, because they keep saying...
George!
It's like, George, come here. George, are you okay?
George. It's like, oh my god, quit saying his damn name.
And the only one's like, it's like, I had no idea what the hell anyone else's name is, or even what their rank is. Like,
privates.
Oh, like, what did you say Kenneth Branagh was? An admiral?
Yeah, he's an admiral.
Okay.
But I mean, other than that, I can't tell you his name. I think it's Bolton. I think they called him Admiral Bolton at one point. Captain Bolton. I can't remember.
Meh.
The one other guy that we follow throughout most of the mole, he's this one British guy who has, I think, 3 lines. He's the one British guy that has 3 lines.
Yeah, there's such a big deal about Harry Styles.
Yeah, One Direction guy is just there. He acts as well as Rihanna can, which is not well. Boy, he doesn't have any acting chops. Christopher Nolan is shitting down your face if he says he was a great actor. Bullshit.
But yeah, then you also have Tom Hardy, as you see in the trailers, coming in on his plane trying to rescue them.
He's not there to rescue. He's just there to provide air cover.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Help rescue.
He's not helping rescue. He's just killing people. Also,
help rescue them by providing air cover.
That's not helping the rescue. That's helping the rescue party. That's covering the air part. That's the thing. It's like he's not really doing diddly. Well, I'm going to throw out a huge issue in terms of history. If I can point out one major problem that bugged the living crap out of me, that was one line that literally did not need to be said. Alright. Everybody knows that the war in Europe started in September 1st, 1939 with the invasion of Poland by the German army. Everybody knows this. That is even what the British declared as the start of the war, because they declared war, I think, like 2-3 days later, same with the French. At the time, there wasn't really any heavy fighting going on between the French and the British, or French, British, or the Allies and Germans. Sorry, brain's not putting together words really well. They make a big deal that George's dad discounts Terrence Stamp. That's why I will call him. I don't even know what his name is. He's an old guy who drives boat.
That's not his...
I don't know his relation to him.
I think he just works for him, I think.
Oh, that's the reason why I said dad very questioningly. I don't know his relation to him.
The other guy, that's his... That's
dad.
the guy.
Yeah, I don't care. Discount Terrence Stamp, boat guy. He has no emotions. He has no driving force except for he's a British person to save British soldiers. That's a kind of running theme throughout this movie. You don't really give a crap or know anybody. You're just like, that's a person.
Yeah, because they never really focus on anyone long enough to give a shit.
Yeah, this movie has a severe ADD problem. Mm-hmm. But they make a big deal that the reason why Discount Terrence Stamp knows a lot about planes is because of his son, who died with the RAF. Alright, sad. Okay, we're trying to give some kind of emotional weight to this guy. And they say he died 3 weeks into the war. The British weren't doing diddly in 3 weeks into the war. They were just in there doing this. How? Did he die because he was stupid and ran his plane into the ground? He didn't die fighting the Germans. But continuity. Just a little continuity. Or they could have said anything. They could have said he died in the Norway campaigns. That would have made some sense. A lot of British pilots did die for what they saw as or pointless deaths. There was no need to worry about that because they didn't say why was Norway important. They were like, who cares? Let's just Norway fall, because the British were kind of being isolationists in a way, not as bad as America was at the time.
Considering we stayed out of it until Pearl Harbor.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, now we're in this.
Yeah, but it's one of those. Why that line? That actually kind of really bothers me a lot, especially considering. There's a little here and there problems of continuity with actual history. Never mind the fact it doesn't look real well. I'll explain here in a second. But that starts to bother me. It's like that one little line. It's like, Christopher Nolan, are you a retard? I'm sorry to keep using that word in such a rough phrasing, but seriously, it's like, did he not open up Wikipedia for like half a second? To see, hey, here's when the British really started engaging the Germans with their air force. It wasn't at the beginning of the war. Mm-hmm. Stupid. That's a minor thing that bothered me.
And that, boys and girls, your history lesson for the day.
Yeah. But then there's another issue I'm having with the movie. I'm sorry, I'm kind of stepping into you a little here.
I'm kind of stepping on your toes, too.
If any of y'all have ever seen Atonement, it is actually a fantastic movie that happens to have a little World War II in it. It's actually really damn good. Fantastic acting throughout. James McAvoy and I can't remember the other gentleman there with him. They are there at the pretty much the end of or near Dunkirk. They have been separated from the unit and they're walking through Dunkirk. Everybody knows this scene from Atonement. It is a single take in which the director follows James McAvoy. Sorry, I can't remember the one black actor who plays him. I know him from other things, just can't place him. And this other guy, I don't know who he is. He's kind of like a soccer hooligan in a way. He's kind of also, the government just trying to kill us. I don't know what accent that was. But they're just walking through Dunkirk. There are soldiers everywhere. They're bestraggled. They look hopeless throughout most of it. Some of them are singing. Some are doing idiocy. Some are fighting each other. It looks exactly like Dunkirk was. Dunkirk was a disaster waiting to happen. It is by sheer happenstance that Hitler got a humongous head and allowed Hermann Göring to try and talk him into letting the Air Force defeat them. Even though everybody else said, why don't we just let the tanks roll over? Mm-hmm. We'll take out the entirety of the British Army and there will be nothing to stop us to invade Britain if it comes to that. But no, that's not what happened. But this whole scene in Atonement, you get that desperation. You get that feeling and it feels hopeless. And yes, we do know the history that they were saved by pretty much the little puddle jumpers, in a nice way of putting it. They weren't really puddle jumpers. These little bitty boats that all from normal, everyday civilians came over, picked up as many soldiers as could, took off back to England, and saved the entire British Army. It's a very heroic story, but it was a disaster waiting to happen because the soldiers were ill-prepared, ill-equipped, and their morale was dead. You don't get that in this movie. You get a bunch of guys standing in lines, and they get shot a few times, bombs explode, and and I will say, this movie's sound is phenomenal. It's one of the best sounding war movies I've ever heard. Like, the engines of any of the planes sound great. The machine gun fire, it pounds you. You almost feel it when it's hitting, or when bombs are exploding. Like, nothing just explodes. Like, boop. I mean, this is the way to do music, which works well with the film, and also how to do a sound score. Like, if this doesn't get an Oscar for this actual how the sound is done, that's actually a shame. But other than that, this movie doesn't deserve shit. Because you don't care about the actors. You don't get this feeling of dread or anything. You just get a feeling of, well, this is a thing I'm watching. And that's a problem. It's like, if a movie that its sole focus was actually on people, and Dunkirk barely happened in its eyes, in a way of speaking. Yeah. But if it had a 20 times better Dunkirk scene than your entire film, which is solely focused on Dunkirk, you got problems there. There's a lot of problems if you can't outdo a movie that only spends maybe 10 minutes focusing on actual Dunkirk. What about you? Any more you want to say? Because I've kind of talked about my issues with this. But I have more I might add.
No, just pretty much reiterating what I was saying, and pretty much what you were saying, that the editing needs to be better. First of all, not jumping around.
Yeah, you felt like you would stay with a character for like a couple of minutes, and then, oh god, we need to go see what they're doing. It's worse than Independence Day Resurrection, or Resurgence, whatever it was called, the second one. Which it had a bad problem of constantly we'd switch from one person to another person. I'm like, oh my god, sit still.
I would say, I would not know. I did not see that. I had to work.
Well, I will just say, it's like, that movie had a problem. That had a large cast, larger than this film, and it didn't have as much issues of jumping around, where it's like, oh god, now we're going to cut over here to this thing, which is going to really discombobulate you.
Suddenly House of Pain is playing in my head. But, yeah, had problems with, jumping around, and mostly with the sequence of events. It's like, if you told this, like, in chronological order, you know, just nice, flowing story, then it would have made sense. Like, we could have actually come to care about some of these characters and what happens to them.
It would have added actual tension to everything.
Yes.
I mean, yes, it's a film that it's based on historical events, so you know what happened. Yeah. But still, a good movie can make you care about something that you know they're going to get out of.
Like we were talking about earlier, Argo.
Yeah, Argo. You know how it happens. You know what happens.
Yeah, you know they're going to get out of it, but at the end...
You're still shitting bricks hoping to get out of it.
Yeah, you're still just like, oh, come on, get... You know, you're still so nervous, just like biting your nails, just on the edge of your seat, just... It's like, because you actually care what happens to these people, even though you know how it turns out.
Or hell, even Saving Private Ryan, it really set a tone. Like, the few people that were saying stuff just seemed to randomly fucking get killed at the beginning of that movie. Mm-hmm. So you weren't sure, it's like, who's important here? Is anybody safe? Is anybody going to be able to live? Even though, you know, the Americans win the entire Operation Overlord. They get through it all. They're going to be okay for the most part. Sure, people die, but that's war for you.
Yeah, another good one you were saying was United 93.
Yeah.
You know how it ends, but you're still rooting for them. You're still, it's like, oh my god, come on, just...
Yeah,
it's like, you actually care.
Magic jump cut! Sorry, battery died. I keep putting in the crappy one. I need to put in this one.
Battery suck it.
Yeah. But yeah, there's just no tension throughout this entire film, and it's because of the editing, and it doesn't help, and because it's like, oh, well, we know these characters aren't making because we saw them, like, sort of a little bit ago. Like, there's this trawler that the one British guy and the One Direction guy get into, and they're like, oh, we're getting shot at, are we going to make it? But you saw it, like, 15 minutes ago sinking in the ocean. It's like, of course you're going to make, you bunch of nitwits. I don't know, there's just too much problems with this movie. It's not a terrible movie. I can say that. I have seen a lot worse. I've seen worse this weekend. But it's a horribly misguided effort. It's a film that doesn't quite know what it wants to be. It's not visceral enough to be a good war movie, but it's not emotional enough to be a good epic.
Yeah.
There's just too little meat there.
Yeah, it's just... meh.
It's a thing that exists. It's the best way I could describe it. So, any more you want to say about this? No. So, what would you give this in terms of a final score?
I don't know. 5 would be way too generous. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great either, but... I don't know. What would you give it? Well, I'm trying to think.
That's Megan's way of... let me get away from what you're saying. Let me
stall for time while I think of it.
If I'm going to give this movie anything, it gets a 4. It's not a terrible film, but it's an easily forgettable one. You're not going to remember it. It doesn't hold any weight. The only thing that's memorable about it is the sound quality and the sound design. Other than that, it's poorly written, it's poorly paced, and you just don't care. That is a bad way to make a movie. You cannot make a film where you give so little shits about a character, about an entire cast. You're just like...
Yeah, I actually dozed off for a second. I didn't miss much.
It's an easy to forget film.
Yeah.
So it's a 4 because of sound quality and look alone. I will say, if I'm going to give it a little positive praise, there's a lot of really well done practical effects. There's some really good ones done here and there. And there's minimalistic CGI here and there, but even then, it's like it doesn't make up for just it being so shallow. So, now that you've had time to think, what'd you give it? I'm gonna guess.
You made
a 3.
Close? A 2. I was like, you're gonna be looking at me funny, especially when I give you my score for Valerian.
I look at you funny anyway.
And this much say, bite me.
But why do you give it a 2?
like I said, it was just boring, and like you said, it's just very forgettable. Like, okay, that's the thing. That's something I watched.
It's a thing that exists.
Yeah, it's like, okay, watch that.
I will,
I'm gonna forget that I watched it.
I will say, as boring as this was, it was nowhere near as boring as War for the Planet of the Apes, which was an hour of apes riding horses. You know how uninteresting it is when they aren't doing shit with that? They're just... I laughed the shit out. Laughed the hell out of... I laughed the shit out of myself. I laughed the hell out of myself. That still didn't work real well. I laughed very heartily at seeing a gorilla riding a horse. That's the most I can tell you about War for Planet Apes, though. I don't remember that very well. So I'm just not liking it. So, yeah, that's as much we can say about Dunkirk. Evacuate theater, don't go see it. Yeah, we're going to have a Valerian review up here in just a little bit. We're going to try... Well, here up in a little bit. Forget it's on the YouTubes. Yeah, we'll have a Valerian review up at the same time this week. Oh, I'll get to put up with me twice again. So, hey, we'll see y'all then, but yeah, don't go see Dunkirk. It's not worth it. I mean, sound science good, but it's... Yeah, you're going to forget about it. So, I guess we'll just say bye-bye till Valerian.
Auf Wiedersehen.